which is going to build the foundation of our conversation. So meet Mark, I'm sure you is my colleague alongside here, with him here. So Naboisho Conservancy was started back in the year 2010.
Okay.
It has been operational for 11 years now, and currently we have a number of 694 landowners. Before the Conservancy was started, the area was, was just a free range and a communal land, which was not individualized, and therefore there was no that right of ownership by an individual. But once it was subdivided, it was put into group rights and subdivided, and each person now has a parcel. There was the need of putting this land together and register as an entity that can be used for conservation purposes. So there was need for this because of the fact that 65% of the animals within the Mara ecosystem are outside the game reserve. That is Masai Mara Game Reserve. So there was no way that we could only conserve the Mara alone without thinking of what is happening outside there. And now, because you see now a bigger percentage is out, so we had, the people had to think of how now do we conserve that and conserve land outside there for us to be able to accommodate, the animals outside there. So that is basically what led to the idea of coming up with conservancies. It was quite very essential because of the population pressure that was coming up. If you didn't really think at that time, you might come to think when it is too late, because there's a lot of development in the Mara. If you look at what was here like 20 years ago and what is now happening, we have so many camps coming up. We have so many infrastructure development happening. And therefore, there was a very good, there was a need of thinking of how do we conserve for the future, so that if you think about 20, 30 years or 50 years to come, you will still find the same, area well conserved. So that was quite very important. And then another need that led to, basically the reason why people had to come up with conservancies was, the local community were not benefiting from tourism. If you look at what happened initially, all the revenue was being collected by the government from the game reserve. A bigger percentage of those working in the tourism industry by then were people from outside the local area. And this is because, the level of education of the local community by then was very low, and therefore, the tourism industry here was sourcing for staff outside. So the people could only see there was all that human wildlife conflicts happening. There's too much traffic from tourism, but it could not benefit. So that is exactly one of the reasons why the people who came earlier thought it would be important if we could also conserve the community land for them also to be able to be part and parcel of those benefiting with tourism in the Mara. Because if that could not have happened, then I'm sure the community would have been antagonized, or at least been irritated by the presence of tourism. You see a lot of people coming, a lot of pollution happening, a lot of traffic, and you're not benefiting. That by itself might work, might irritate you to think like this is something negative, and I don't see the essence of tourism going on in the Mara. So why should this element be coming to my piece of land, and I'm not benefiting from tourism? I would rather kill, I would rather poison the cats instead of, them coming to intrude into my home at night, bring a lot of damages instead of, and I'm not benefiting. So since then, in the year 2006, when the first conservancy came up, we've been getting conservancies coming every now and then up to today. They are still forming new conservancies every day, clearly indicating that this is a new concept that people are enjoying. And that is why when this area today form a conservancy, it becomes a challenge and an adjacent area think of, let us also conserve. So basically, those are the main reasons that are behind the formation of this conservancy and many other conservancies within the Mara. So as a conservancy, I did mention that we have 694 landowners. These are the people who are on a guaranteed revenue. They are on guaranteed revenue in terms of guaranteed payment, something that they get on a monthly basis. You're being paid based on the number of acres that you own inside the conservancy. So I'm talking about the benefits landowners are getting. So one is the guaranteed revenue that they get. Number two, which is much more important than the rest, is about the grazing. Here as a conservancy, we do control grazing. This is because we have to think about the local community, we have to think about the herbivores inside the conservancy, we have to think about the elephants, we have to think about the cats and all that. So we try to blend all of them to make sure that they work together in the conservancy. So we do control grazings based on the regions that we have, and this is because it doesn't matter how much amount of money that you get a Maasai, but if you're not going to think about the livestock, there is nothing that is going to continue. Doesn't matter how much money you commit to pay for them, as long as the livestock are getting are getting a chance for grazing, then they're happy. Number two, because a conservancy is not like any other tourism destination. Here, we are thinking of how do we do conservation without interfering with the normal life of the local community. The traditional way, the Maasai since time immemorial, they have been living with these animals. Even before land was conserved for conservation or registered as an entity ready for conservation, the Maasai were living freely, very okay without a lot of interference with the wild animals. So how do we make sure that all tourism, wildlife, and the local community thrive and work together without each of the parties seeing the other one as a competitor or something that is working to its disadvantage? So we provide space for grazing. Maybe in a few minutes you will start seeing sheep here and cattle getting into the conservancy. We also have some social funds like the bursary. This is something that on a timely basis, when our students are going to colleges, high schools, and all that, we give bursary whenever they're reporting. Currently, in our database, we have close to 4,000. No, 900. 900.
Yeah, 900.
Yeah, close to 900 students. These students are specifically for our landowners. Going into the future, we'll have more because younger people like us, already our kids are not into the system. But as time goes by, the numbers, when the conservancy started, the number of the students who are under the same kitty were 200. Today, they are more than 900. So that means if we go to next year and the other year, we will have more than 2,000 students. So this is something that is also helping. And now to the point where you are basing your thesis on the human-wildlife conflicts. Now, with all these goodies, how do we make sure that there is that coexistence between the landowners and the animals? Remember, at some point there is friction. Because when a lion is hungry and there is a cow inside the conservancy, it does not know that this one I'm not supposed to eat. This one belongs to a Maasai outside there. No, if he's hungry, he's hungry. He's going to kill the cow. And if he kills the cow, if we are not going to look for some some mitigation measures to control the person from seeing the lion as an enemy and might retaliate to kill, the Conservancy had to chip in by trying to now talk to the Maasai and compensate a little amount of money for the cow lost. So that is what we are doing. We have a program, a very busy program as a Conservancy that we are running on a daily basis. We visit every corner of the Conservancy to see whether such cases are there. We have 2 motorbikes. We have 2 guys who are stationed here who are, operating that program, and they make sure that if my sheep is lost today to a jackal, they are going to report and are compensated within no time. So, and we've seen a lot of changes since then. Initially, this is something that was happening there before. If a hyena kills the sheep, they will take some poison, put on the sheep killed, then they throw outside. Then you might find a day after 30 or 40 hyenas dead, and probably 100 or 200 vultures are dead. You see, if we do that today, there's nobody who is going to poison. They will call, they call the Conservancy for recording and all that for them to get compensated. So that means we've already mitigated, those things that people were doing a lot of poison. So those are things that we do as a Conservancy, and we have 8 camps inside the Conservancy. Those are the tourism partners. So here we have 2 people coming together, 2 parties coming together. We have 694 landowners. Then we have 8 business guys operating the camps inside the camp. Those are the people who pay the leases. Those are the people who also are concerned of the daily operation cost of the Conservancy and all that. But these other guys give land, and they make sure that when the TPs are in Nairobi or elsewhere, the Conservancy is thriving out very well. There's a lot of peace and all that. So that is Naboisho. I don't know whether there's something that I've not mentioned. Mark will also be able to chip in and talk about that. And maybe a question.
Yes. Okay. So one question that I would have to say is, in the beginning, when there was the human-animal conflict, the Messiah people, how was that handled? I understand that you create BOMAs, but whenever there was human-animal conflict, how was it handled back then compared to today? I know you said for today there's a compensation, but back then, what were some techniques that were used? So in the camp where I'm at, it's open and the wildlife is able to come through. So back then, if there were elephants that came through, how was that handled? How did the Messiah people live in peace with the elephants?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
At first, where we live or where the Maasai live, you might realize that it's somewhat different from where the camp where you live is. The camp is in a bush. But you see, if you look at the settlement areas of the Maasai, they all go to the plains. And this is because, and I guess that's why they were called the plain Nilots. They like going to the plains. We go to the plains as one of the security measures. Because if you get out in a plain, you will automatically see an elephant. But in your camp there, you cannot see. You'll just get out and you're meeting an elephant right away. So one of the measures that the Maasai used to protect themselves was at least by making sure that they also live outside. Number 2, the elephants don't come. Normally, if you look at the cases of the people who have been killed by elephants, it's not at home. It's when they're looking after cattle in the bushes. So every day when you're going to look at the cattle, after cattle, that is, let's say, inside a conservancy, and you accidentally meet an elephant, that is where you will be killed by an elephant. So it's during when you are looking after cattle. It is when also you are on a safari. Probably you are, transiting from one area to another, and you go through bushes and you get either buffalo or an elephant, because those are the most common cases here. Most common is the elephant and the buffalo. Lions, no, probably some injuries, but we don't have, clear records of who has been killed by a lion. Only buffaloes, very rampant. Every year, every month, we're getting such cases. So, but of late, I don't know why, but I guess it is because of the number of elephants that has gone very, very high. Of late, we are getting elephants on a daily basis at home. Today, if you wake up in the morning, you will see the track of the elephant right on your doorstep. But initially, it wasn't something very, and people were moving from, people were in different villages and they were moving from one village to another. Nowadays, people are not even moving a lot, but you see the elephants are coming. Probably because of the conservancies that has been conserved, and now we have a lot of elephants that are here. They are going like that. The masters use also to protect themselves when they are going after cattle by using the bells in the cows. They start, I don't know what they call, but if you have a cow, there's there's a bell that rings.
Cowbells.
Cowbells, and these cowbells make a lot of noise. So if you have like 300 cows and 20 has cowbells, they make a lot of noise to an extent that when they're moving towards that direction and they're elephants, they'll move away because they're also irritated by the sounds. Because it's so noisy to an extent that you don't like the noise. You get off. So that was another way where they also get security. Because if you are, looking after these cattle and they're making noise, so the elephants keep going. So, and then about the issue of homestead. Initially, the only option for homestead was the bushes, some trees that we cut, some trees, and we make our, our homestead on. But people are not really exposed on some other measures they can, or how else can they make their, immediately when that one was getting eroded, the issue of bringing the trees to make your homestead, people resulted on electric fencing. Something that up to today, we as conservancies are working so hard